Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me. It was a Wednesday, nothing special. The kind of day that blends in with all the other days, where nothing out of the ordinary happens. But I'll never forget that evening. It's a night that still haunts me every time I think about it. The night she humiliated me in front of everyone. And it wasn't just some small misunderstanding or accidental slip-up. No, this was deliberate, and I never expected it from her. Let me set the stage. We were at her company's annual networking event. It wasn't a glamorous affair, just a gathering of colleagues, a few drinks, and a lot of talking about work. I had gone to these events with her before, so I knew the routine. They would talk shop, I would stand off to the side, maybe have a drink or two, and wait for it to be over. It was never anything extraordinary, but it was part of the deal when you're married to someone like Mia. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really want to be there. I'm not a fan of these things. Small talk drains me, and I'm not great at pretending to be interested in things that don't matter to me. But I went because she asked me to, and because, on some level, I thought it would be a good chance to support her. At first, everything seemed normal. Mia looked incredible, of course. I mean, she always did. She had this magnetic presence, and no matter how many times I saw her in a room full of people, it still blew me away. People gravitated toward her. But tonight, something was different. At first, I couldn't quite put my finger on it. She was more distant, less engaged in the conversations I tried to have with her, more focused on her phone than usual. But the real kicker came later in the evening, after we had been there for a few hours. Mia had slipped away into a conversation with one of her colleagues, someone I hadn't met before. I didn't think much of it at first. After all, she was there to network. But as I stood there, nursing my drink, I noticed something strange. They were laughing. A little too much, a little too loudly. It wasn't just friendly banter. There was something about the way she was looking at him, the way he looked at her, that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It wasn't until I overheard a snippet of their conversation that I realized the full extent of what was going on. "I just love how you always know what to say," she said, her voice warm, almost flirtatious. He laughed, and the way they exchanged glances, God, I could feel my stomach drop to the floor. Something wasn't right. I tried to shake it off, telling myself I was overreacting. Maybe I was just reading too much into it. But when Mia excused herself to grab another drink, I couldn't help but follow her. I wasn't planning on spying, just checking in, seeing if everything was okay. And then it happened. As she stood at the bar, scrolling through her phone, I saw a name pop up on her screen. It was a message notification from the same colleague. I knew I shouldn't have looked, but I couldn't help myself. I glanced over her shoulder, just for a second, and my heart stopped. The message was clear, it was intimate, and it was something I never thought I'd see from her. "I'm counting down the hours until I can see you again," it said. I felt my world tilt. I couldn't breathe. I had to get out of there. But before I could make a move, Mia turned, saw me standing there, and her face changed. The warmth in her eyes evaporated, replaced by something cold and distant. "What are you doing?" she asked, her tone sharp. I don't know why I stayed. Maybe I was trying to convince myself that I hadn't just seen what I thought I had. Maybe I wanted to believe it was nothing. Just a harmless flirtation, nothing to worry about. But deep down I knew. "You know, you're being paranoid," she said, her voice laced with annoyance. "It's just a colleague. You're overthinking it." But I wasn't overthinking it. I had seen what I had seen. And the look in her eyes, the way she brushed it off so easily, it made me sick. She wasn't just dismissing me. She was gaslighting me, trying to make me believe I was crazy for even considering the idea that something was going on. The rest of the night passed in a blur. I don't remember much. All I could think about was that message. That moment when I realized that something had been happening behind my back. That something had been happening for a while. But I didn't confront her then. I didn't want to make a scene, not in front of all those people. I should have walked away that night. I should have left her at the event and gone home. But I stayed. I stayed because I didn't want to believe the truth. And for that, I'll never forgive myself. When we got back to our apartment, I didn't say a word. Neither did she. It was as though the tension between us wasn't even real, as though nothing had changed. But I knew something had shifted. I couldn't look at her the same way again. I couldn't unsee what I had seen. The next day, I did something I never thought I would. I went through her phone. I had to know what was really going on. I hated myself for it. I hated that I didn't trust her enough to just ask her. But I needed proof. I needed to know if she was hiding something from me. And that's when I found it, the real bombshell. Messages, not just from that guy, but from several others. There were plans to meet up, inside jokes, things that went way beyond innocent work conversations. It was like a slap in the face. The trust one had built our relationship on, the love I thought was real, it all came crashing down in one moment. I knew then that there was no going back. But there was something else I had to do. I had to expose it. Not just to her, but to everyone. If she was going to humiliate me, then I was going to make sure the truth was out there for everyone to see. The next few days felt like I was walking around in a fog, trying to pretend like nothing had happened, trying to convince myself that I was just overthinking things. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. I kept replaying that moment in my head when I saw the message on Mia's phone. I'm counting down the hours until I can see you again. That sentence echoed in my mind, haunting me at every turn. I wanted to confront her, ask her directly, but every time I tried to gather the courage, something held me back. What if I was wrong? What if I was just imagining things? I didn't want to be the paranoid husband, the one who jumped to conclusions without real proof. But the more I thought about it, the more certain I became. There was something going on between Mia and Jason, something more than just work. I tried to focus on work, to distract myself from the gnawing feeling in my chest, but it was impossible. Every time my phone buzzed, my mind would race. Was it her? Was it Jason? What were they talking about? I hated that I was even questioning her like this, but the truth was, I didn't trust her anymore. I had to know what was going on. I couldn't just sit back and do nothing. That night, I took a step I never thought I would. While Mia was in the shower, I grabbed her phone. My heart was pounding in my chest as I unlocked it. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was a violation of her privacy, but I didn't care. I needed to see the messages, to know the truth. I scrolled through her conversations, my hands shaking. At first, it was just harmless work stuff, nothing that stood out. But then I found it. A string of messages from Jason, dating back weeks. The tone was flirty, the words suggestive. They joked about meeting up outside of work, about sneaking away for a drink after late meetings. I felt my stomach churn as I read every word, each one confirming what I had feared. But there was one message that made my blood run cold. It was from the night of the event, the very night when I saw them together. "I can't wait to see you later tonight," it said. And then, right beneath it, "You looked so good tonight, I couldn't keep my eyes off you." That was it, the proof I needed. I wasn't imagining things. Mia had been hiding something from me, and now I knew exactly what it was. The pain in my chest was unbearable, but it was nothing compared to the rage that started building inside me. How could she do this? How could she humiliate me in front of everyone like that, all while lying to my face? I wanted to scream, to confront her right then and there, but I held back. I needed to think. I needed to figure out what to do next. The last thing I wanted was to make a rash decision in the heat of the moment. But one thing was clear, I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I carefully put her phone back in its place, making sure everything was as it was before. My mind was spinning, and I knew that nothing would ever be the same. Mia had crossed a line, and I wasn't about to let her get away with it. But the question was, how would I expose her? How would I make her see that I knew the truth? The following days were a blur of tension, awkward silences, and cold stares. I couldn't look at Mia the same way anymore. Every time she smiled, every time she kissed me goodbye in the morning, it felt fake. The warmth I used to feel from her was gone, replaced by a coldness that I couldn't ignore. I knew she had no idea that I knew the truth, but something about the way she acted around me only made me more suspicious. It was like she was trying too hard to act normal, as if nothing had changed. I spent hours thinking about how to confront her. Should I sit her down, ask her directly? Should I throw the messages in her face and demand an explanation? No, I couldn't do that. I wasn't sure I even wanted to hear what she'd say. I wasn't looking for her excuses or apologies. I just wanted the truth. But more than that, I wanted justice. It was clear to me now, this wasn't just a one-time mistake. This had been going on for a while, and Mia had been hiding it from me. I didn't know exactly how deep the affair went, but I was certain that it was more than just a flirtation. I had seen the way she looked at Jason, the way they exchanged those secret glances. I knew enough to understand that she had been betraying me for a long time, and the worst part was, she thought she could get away with it. That night, as I lay in bed next to her, pretending to sleep, the decision became crystal clear. I wasn't going to let her walk away from this unscathed. She thought she could humiliate me in front of her colleagues, in front of the world, and I'd just turn a blind eye. No, she had crossed a line, and now I was going to expose her for who she really was. But how? How could I make her understand the depth of what she had done to me? The humiliation I felt, the betrayal that now defined everything I thought I knew about our marriage? I kept coming back to the same thought, the messages. Those messages were the key. They were the proof, the evidence I needed to confront her. And if I had to expose them to everyone, friends, family, her colleagues, then so be it. If she wanted to make a fool of me, then I was going to make sure everyone knew exactly who she was. The next morning, I woke up early. Mia was still asleep, her breathing soft and steady. I looked over at her, feeling a strange mix of anger and sadness. I had loved this woman. I had trusted her with everything I had, and now, it felt like she had torn that trust apart. But I couldn't dwell on that. I had a plan, and I needed to follow through. I grabbed my laptop and pulled up the conversation with Jason. As I scrolled through the messages, my hands were steady, my mind focused. This wasn't a moment for hesitation. If Mia was going to try to play the victim, I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I started drafting a message, but not just any message. This was going to be my declaration. I was going to expose everything. I would show her that I knew what she had been hiding. I wasn't just going to confront her privately. I was going to show everyone the truth, and there would be no turning back. But as I typed, my fingers paused. A small part of me hesitated, thinking about the consequences. Was I really ready to destroy everything? To make sure that everyone saw my pain? Wouldn't it be better to just walk away, to leave the lies behind, and try to move on? But deep down, I knew the answer. Mia had humiliated me in front of everyone that night, and now it was my turn to expose her. I wasn't going to be the one left in the shadows, pretending like nothing had happened. No, she had underestimated me, and now she would feel the full weight of her actions. I hit send, and then I waited. As the days passed, I kept a careful eye on Mia, watching her every move, wondering if she suspected that I knew. She continued to act like nothing had changed. She went about her usual routines, work, social outings, pretending everything was normal. But with every smile, every touch, my resentment grew. I could barely stand to be in the same room as her, but I forced myself to keep up the charade. It was all leading up to something. I knew that. I had already made up my mind. This couldn't go on. I wasn't going to continue living in this lie, pretending that everything was okay when I knew the truth. And I wasn't going to be the only one carrying this burden. She needed to feel what I felt. She needed to face the consequences of her actions. The messages were still fresh in my mind, every word they exchanged burning like acid. I can't wait to see you again. I'm counting down the hours. How could I ever forget those words? How could I ever look at her the same way again? That afternoon, after Mia left for work, I found myself sitting in front of my laptop once more. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I prepared to send the message. It was going to be simple, straightforward. I was done with subtlety. I was done with questioning myself. It was time to expose everything. But just before I clicked send, I froze. The reality of what I was about to do hit me like a punch to the gut. I was about to tear everything apart. There would be no going back from this. Once the truth was out there, I couldn't take it back. I would be the one left standing in the wreckage. I sat there, staring at the screen for what felt like hours, my mind racing. Was this really what I wanted? Was exposing her worth destroying our marriage, our lives? But then I remembered the humiliation, the betrayal. I remembered how she had laughed in my face, how she had looked me in the eye and lied to me without hesitation. No, this wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice. It was about making sure she understood that there were consequences for what she had done. I clicked send. The message was simple, but cutting. I know about the messages, Mia. I know about you and Jason. The truth is out now. As soon as I hit send, I felt a strange sense of calm. It was over. The truth was no longer something I had to carry alone. Mia would have to face the music. I didn't care how she reacted anymore. She could try to deny it, but the proof was undeniable. For the next few hours, I didn't hear from her. I sat there, waiting, my heart pounding in my chest. Was she going to come home and try to explain? Was she going to lie her way out of this one, as she had so many times before? Or was this the beginning of the end for us? When the door finally opened later that evening, Mia walked in, her face pale. She didn't say anything at first, but I could see it in her eyes. The panic, the fear. She knew. She knew that I had seen everything. How could you? I asked, my voice low but steady. I wasn't going to raise my voice. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. She needed to hear the truth from me, not the other way around. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. She took a step forward, then stopped. She started, but the words didn't come. I waited. Don't even try to explain, Mia. I've seen everything. The messages, the lies, the way you acted at the event. I know it all now, and I'm not going to pretend I don't. Her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, I thought she was going to crumble, apologize, beg for forgiveness. But she didn't. Instead, she just stood there, as if the weight of everything was finally catching up with her. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said quietly, almost whispering. It was just a moment. A mistake. Please, just a mistake. I interrupted. A mistake? You've been lying to me for months, Mia. This wasn't just a mistake. This was deliberate. She closed her eyes, a tear slipping down her cheek. I had never seen her so vulnerable. It almost made me feel sorry for her. But then I remembered what she had done. I remembered how she had humiliated me, and suddenly, that fleeting sympathy vanished. I never wanted to hurt you, she said, her voice breaking. I was confused. I was lonely. I don't know what I was thinking. Lonely, I scoffed. You're going to tell me this was because you were lonely? You didn't think about how this would affect me? How it would destroy everything we built together? She stayed silent, looking down at the floor. I could see the guilt in her eyes, but it wasn't enough. I had already made up my mind. I wasn't going to forgive her this time. There was no coming back from what she had done. I want you to leave, I said, my voice cold now. I want you to leave, and I want you to figure out what you want. But don't think for 1 second that you can come back from this. She didn't say anything. She just turned and walked out of the room. I could hear her footsteps fading down the hallway, and for the first time in days, I felt a sense of relief. The truth was out. The weight I had been carrying for so long was finally lifted. But even though I knew I had done the right thing, I couldn't help but feel empty. I had exposed her for who she truly was, but at what cost? It was quiet that night, unnervingly so. Mia had left, but the silence in the apartment felt like a weight I couldn't escape. I sat there for hours, replaying every moment. Her smile, the way she had avoided my gaze, the coldness that had crept into our marriage. I had exposed her. I had done what I set out to do, but why didn't it feel like victory? I had hoped that exposing the truth would bring some sort of relief, some closure, but instead, all I felt was hollow. The emotional storm inside me was overwhelming, the anger mixing with a deep, lingering sadness. How had we come to this? How had everything turned into something so ugly? The next morning, Mia didn't come home. I hadn't expected her to, not right away. The question now was, what came next? She'd been my partner for years. We had shared a life together, and now, it was all slipping away, piece by piece. I spent the day at home, doing everything I could to avoid the silence. I cleaned. I tried to distract myself with work, but nothing helped. My phone buzzed around midday. I didn't even need to look at the screen to know it was her. I hadn't saved her number under her name for nothing. It was a simple text, "We need to talk." I stared at it for a long time, weighing the decision. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to tell her there was nothing left to say. But another part of me wanted to hear her out, wanted to understand how she could justify everything she had done. Maybe it was foolish, but I picked up my phone and typed a reply. "I'll be home tonight." That evening, as the clock ticked closer to the time we'd agreed to meet, the tension in the air was almost unbearable. I wasn't sure what to expect. Was she going to apologize? Try to explain herself? Or was this just the beginning of the end? When Mia arrived, she looked different. Gone was the confident woman who used to smile so easily. Instead, there was a person I didn't recognize, broken, fragile, almost apologetic. She stood at the door for a moment, unsure of what to do, before stepping inside. Her eyes were red, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry," she said, the words falling from her lips like she was reciting something she had practiced over and over. "I never wanted to hurt you. This wasn't supposed to happen." I watched her closely, but the sincerity I was hoping for was missing. This wasn't the apology I wanted. It felt like she was saying the words because she had to, not because she truly understood the pain she had caused. "Did you ever love me?" I asked, my voice surprisingly calm, given the storm inside me. Her eyes flickered with uncertainty. "Of course I did. I do." I lost myself for a while. Things got complicated. Complicated, I echoed, my anger starting to rise again. How could you let things get so complicated? You didn't just lose yourself, Mia. You lied. You cheated. And you humiliated me. In front of everyone. She didn't respond right away. Instead, she looked down at the floor, her hands twisting nervously in front of her. I wasn't happy, she said, almost in a whisper. I felt invisible in our relationship. And Jason, he made me feel seen again. I know it doesn't excuse what I did, but it's the truth. I sat there in stunned silence, trying to process her words. So, this was all about feeling seen? I asked, my voice thick with disbelief. You chose to destroy everything we built because you felt unnoticed? I know it sounds stupid, she said, her voice cracking. I know it doesn't make sense. But in the moment, I just didn't care about the consequences. I just needed to feel something. I stared at her, my mind racing. I wanted to be angry, to tell her she had destroyed me, to scream at her for betraying everything we had. But the truth was, I couldn't find the words. My heart was broken, and no amount of explaining or apologizing could change that. You don't get it, Mia, I finally said, my voice quiet. It's not just about feeling seen. It's about trust. It's about respect. And you shattered both. Her face crumpled as the reality of what she had done seemed to sink in. She reached out to touch my arm, but I pulled away. There was no going back now, no easy fix for what she had done. The damage was done, and all we had left was the wreckage. I'm sorry, she whispered again, her voice barely audible. But the apology felt hollow. It was too late for apologies. As she left later that night, I stood at the door, watching her go. I didn't know what would happen next. I didn't know if we would ever speak again. But I knew one thing for certain. I would never forget how she had made me feel. How she had broken me. And how, in the end, I had to find the strength to expose the truth, even if it meant losing everything. The silence in the apartment felt suffocating. I sat there, replaying the conversation we had just had, but the words didn't matter anymore. The damage had been done. Mia's excuses, her apologies, it all felt like a waste of breath. She had already crossed the line. I was no longer angry. I was just numb. What do you do when the person you thought you knew turns out to be someone else entirely? Mia's absence that night was a reminder that I wasn't dealing with the woman I married anymore. She was gone, and all that was left was the shattered image of who she used to be. But the truth had already come out. The messages, the affair, the lies, they were all out in the open now. And there was no going back. The next day, I decided to take action. I couldn't just sit here and wallow in my own misery. I needed to regain control, to do something that would show Mia and everyone else that I wasn't going to be the one left in the dust. I had been humiliated, but I wouldn't let her get away with it. No, this was my turn to make the first move. I pulled out my phone and opened up the conversation between Mia and Jason. My fingers hovered over the screen as I thought about what I was about to do. I could expose the messages to everyone. Let them see who Mia really was. Let them know the truth about what she had done. I wasn't going to let her get away with making me the fool, pretending everything was normal while she played both sides. But as I looked at those messages, I can't wait to see you again. I'm counting down the hours. A different idea started to form in my mind. Maybe exposing it to everyone wasn't the right way. What if I used these messages for something else? What if I made Mia come face to face with the full weight of her actions? Made her see what she had done in front of the people who mattered most to her? I felt a rush of clarity. This was bigger than just me getting revenge or exposing her to her colleagues. It was about making her realize the depth of what she had done, how easily she had thrown away everything for a moment of weakness, how casually she had betrayed me, and how little she had cared about the damage it would cause. She needed to see that. So, I made a decision. I wouldn't just send the messages to anyone. I'd send them to her. I would make her look at them, one last time, before the world saw what she had done. I spent the next few hours carefully crafting the message, trying to find the perfect words. I knew she would try to deny it, but this time, there would be no hiding. There would be no excuse. When I was done, I hesitated for just a moment. Then, I hit send, and waited. The moment I hit send, a wave of calm washed over me, though it was tainted with something darker, anticipation. I wasn't sure what I expected from Mia's reaction. Maybe guilt, maybe anger, but I certainly wasn't prepared for the cold silence that followed. The minutes stretched on endlessly as I sat there, staring at my phone screen, waiting for the notification that she had seen the message. Time felt distorted, like I was in a limbo, caught between wanting to confront her face to face and knowing that I'd just set something in motion that could never be undone. The weight of what I had just done settled heavily on my chest. Was this the right choice? Was I doing the right thing by confronting her with the truth in this way, forcing her to see her actions in the cold light of reality? My phone buzzed. I picked it up, my heart pounding. It was a single message from Mia. I tapped it open. "I didn't think you'd do this," she wrote. "Please, let's talk. I can explain." Explain? The words sounded so hollow now. What could she possibly say that would explain the messages, the lies, the way she had humiliated me? I had seen the truth with my own eyes. There was no more room for explanations. But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of letting her talk her way out of it. No, I needed her to feel what I felt, to understand the depth of her betrayal. "I'm done listening to your excuses," I typed back, my fingers moving quickly now, almost as if the words were coming from somewhere deep inside me. "You've had your chance to explain. This is bigger than you and me. It's about the truth, and you can't hide from it anymore." I waited for a response, but nothing came. Was she still in shock? Was she scrambling to figure out how to fix this? I wasn't sure, but I could feel the tension building, like a storm brewing just over the horizon. Hours passed without a word from her. I started to wonder if she was avoiding me, giving herself time to craft the perfect apology, the one she thought would make everything go away. But I wasn't interested in her rehearsed lines anymore. There was no redemption for her. She had chosen this path, and now she would face the consequences. Later that evening, Mia returned home. I heard the door open and close quietly, and then the soft sound of footsteps across the floor. I didn't move, didn't even glance up from the chair I was sitting in. I could feel the tension in the air as she walked into the room, her presence now nothing more than a reminder of the lies. "I've been thinking about everything," she said softly, her voice breaking the silence. "And I know I hurt you. I don't expect you to forgive me. But please, let me explain." I stood up then, my chair scraping against the floor as I turned to face her. "Explain? Mia, you don't get to explain this. There's nothing left to say. What you did, how you betrayed me, it's unforgivable." Her face crumpled as the weight of my words hit her. For the first time, I saw her vulnerability, not the confident, composed woman she used to be, but the person who had allowed herself to get lost in her own lies. "I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "I didn't know how to fix what was broken between us. Jason made me feel important, something I haven't felt in so long. I'm so sorry for everything." I shook my head, feeling my frustration grow. "It's not about feeling important, Mia. It's about respect. It's about trust. And you destroyed all of that. Don't stand here and tell me that you didn't know what you were doing. You knew exactly what you were doing every step of the way." She didn't say anything for a long moment. Her eyes filled with tears, but her lips pressed tight. "What do you want me to say? That I regret it? I do. But the damage is done. You don't get to take that back." I let her words hang in the air for a moment, not knowing how to respond. There was no comfort I could give her. There was no fixing this. It was too late for that. "I never asked for this," I finally said, my voice steady. "You brought this on yourself. And now, you have to face it." Mia looked at me for a long time, as if searching for any sign that I would soften, that I would find a way to forgive her. But I had no more compassion for her, not after everything. The woman I had loved was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. And as hard as it was to admit, I didn't want to be with her anymore. She took a step back, her shoulders slumping in defeat. "I understand," she said quietly, her voice full of resignation. "I'll leave. I'll get my things." I didn't stop her. There was nothing left to say. She had made her choice, and now I had made mine. She turned and walked toward the door, and I could hear the sound of her packing in the background. My heart didn't ache like I thought it would. The pain had already been replaced by something else. Relief, perhaps. But it was also a feeling I couldn't quite put into words. The door closed behind her with a soft click, and I was left standing there in the quiet, knowing that everything had changed. This was the end of something I thought would last forever, but it was also the beginning of something new, a chance for me to rebuild, to regain the respect and the trust one had lost. The storm had passed. Now, all that was left was to figure out what came next. The days that followed felt like the weight of the world had finally been lifted off my shoulders. Mia was gone. The woman who had once been my partner, my confidant, was now nothing more than a distant memory. I should have felt devastated. I should have been angry, but instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Freedom. It was as though the shackles of deceit had finally been broken, and I was able to breathe again. I threw myself into work, into projects I had put off for far too long. I focused on rebuilding myself, rediscovering who I was outside of the confines of my marriage. It wasn't easy, but it was liberating. The pain of the betrayal still lingered, but it wasn't overwhelming. I started seeing a therapist to help me process everything, and gradually, the rawness of the hurt started to fade. Mia, on the other hand, seemed to spiral after leaving. She tried to reach out a few times, texting, calling, but I didn't respond. I didn't need to hear her explanations anymore. I had already seen her true colors. The reality of the situation hit her hard, and I could tell from the few glimpses I had of her life post-departure that things weren't going well. Her friends stopped replying to her calls, and she was becoming more and more isolated. I found out later, through mutual acquaintances, that she had lost her job at the agency. Her boss had found out about the affair, and while they had no proof of any physical misconduct, they couldn't ignore the damage to the company's reputation. It turned out, her colleagues had suspected something for months, and her behavior during the event had been the final straw. She was let go shortly after. It was a hit to her pride, her career, her social circle, her entire life that she had built through deceit. It all crumbled. I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for her. After everything, she had made her own choices, and now, karma was making sure she felt the consequences. What struck me the most was the way she had seemed so confident, so untouchable, during our marriage. She had treated me like I was the one who didn't matter. But now, I saw her for who she truly was, a person who would lie, manipulate, and betray to get what she wanted, and ultimately, it had all come crashing down. She had hurt so many people along the way, but it was her own actions that had destroyed her life. As for me, I found peace. Slowly, I began to trust again, trust myself, trust that I could make the right decisions. I started meeting new people, making new connections, but I was careful. I wasn't ready to dive into another relationship just yet. I needed time. Time to heal. Time to rediscover who I was before all of this. Months later, I ran into someone new, a woman I'd met through some mutual friends. Her name was Sarah, and she was kind, funny, and refreshingly honest. We took things slow, but I could already tell there was something different about this one. She respected boundaries, valued honesty, and wasn't afraid to communicate openly. One evening, over dinner, she asked me about my past relationships. For the first time in a long while, I found myself able to talk about it openly without anger. I shared everything, the hurt, the betrayal, the lessons learned, and as I did, I realized just how much stronger I had become, how far I had come from the person I was when I first found out about Mia's affair. Sarah didn't judge me, didn't pity me. She simply listened and understood. That moment, sitting there with her, knowing that I was no longer the victim, that I was no longer chained to the past, was everything I needed. In the end, I had taken the hard road. I had endured the pain of betrayal, but I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more self-assured. Mia had thought she could take everything from me, but what she didn't realize was that she couldn't take my dignity, my sense of self-worth. She couldn't take my ability to rebuild, to move forward. As for Mia, I never heard from her again. I don't know where she ended up or what happened to her after her fall from grace, but I knew that her choices had caught up with her. I didn't need to watch her suffer to feel satisfied. I knew that karma had done its work. She had gotten what she deserved, and I had finally found my peace. Looking back, I couldn't change what happened, but I didn't need to. Life had a way of balancing things out. And now, for the first time in a long while, I could look ahead, free from the chains of my past, ready to embrace whatever came next. Please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. I read them all.